All right, thank you to everybody who came out tonight. I know we had a miserable weather week, and it is, come on all the way in. Mark, come on in. Karima, come all the way in. Come in. I want to thank you all for coming out on this very nearly perfect summer day. Nobody appreciates weather like those of us here in Buffalo. So thank you all for coming out. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shirley Verico, and I am the Director of Visual Arts here at Buffalo Art Studio. I'm trying to get out of the zone of the speaker. And we are a 20,000 square foot not-for-profit arts center. We have a three-pronged mission: safe and affordable studio space for working artists. We have a number of our studio artists here today. And after the artist talks, I encourage you to go back into the studios. It's a really a big part of what makes us special. We also have a dynamic education program for youth and adults, and our fall classes have just gone live. And you can go onto our website and see how many are we offering this fall, Adelina? 18 classes. So there is a little something for everybody. And lastly, we are committed to showcasing contemporary art. And the two exhibitions that we have here today kick off our next exhibition series, which is called Unruly Spaces. And this exhibition series is really committed to amplifying voices that oftentimes go, if not unheard, they can be muffled. And in the moment that we are in, there's been a lot of muffling. So I am all for amplifying. I am loud. I don't need that much amplification, but I'm happy to share that with others. And we are able to do the kind of programming that we do here tonight through some very generous funders. And I have to give out a shout out and thank, first of all, M&T Bank. This is M&T Fourth Fridays. Those of you that follow me on social media know that I put out a little post. This is one of those months where we have 5 Fridays, so I wanted to remind everyone it is today. We also are supported by the Cameron and Jane Baird Foundation, the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo, Erie County Cultural Funds, M&T Bank, Ovation Stand for the Arts, the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, and the New York State Council for the Arts with the support of Governor Kathy Hochul. Lastly, and absolutely not least, is Tri-Main Management. We are a small team. We are ambitious, and one of the reasons we can do what we do is we have the incredible support of the owner and the managers of this building. So Tri-Main Management, thank you. They, have been generous in the way that they have rented the space for us, but they have also been very, very generous in the way they've supported our ambitious programming. So we have to always thank them. So tonight I'm going to start with Davana Robedee, an artist who came to my attention via one of our studio artists. And I was utterly captivated both by the visuals, and then the more I found out about the process, the more engaged I became. And it really is exciting. I encourage you all to read the tags. There is a catalog. We included pictures of the shiboris before they go into the dye, because I thought it was really interesting to see how these large pieces are in fact stitched and pulled tight and are so small after all of our not enormous artist and the work that she does. So I'm going to welcome Davana, and Davana was also a New York State Council for the Arts recipient of a Support for Artists grants that was sponsored by Buffalo Art Studio. So we're really excited to have her here. And I'm going to call her on over here to talk a little bit about her work. When Davana is done, we're going to scoot on into the center gallery. So thank you, Davana.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you, Shirley. Shirley's been really wonderful to work with. And thank you, NISCA, for funding the project, if any NISCA people are around. Thank you for supporting the creation of this work. And a lot of people have questions about the process. I'm going to get to that, but there's a few things I do want to say first about the spirit of this work, and why I began to make work this way and what these pieces mean to me. I have a chronic illness. I have actually a couple, so yeah. And living in a body that is in chronic pain and sort of dealing with the notion that But I have this spirit and this life force and this thing inside me that's so pure, right? The core of who I am. There are days where you feel locked in, right? Where the body is a limitation, but the body is also, me, right? And there are days where my body extends me. It gives me agency. So I love my body, but I have these contentious relationships. And a lot of my work is sort of about all of the in-betweens moments between spirit and life and matter and consciousness and dreams and versus reality and all of these sort of in-between moments. And so this was very fertile ground for this work to come into being. And so each of these pieces is my sort of contention. So three pieces I'll point out to you, that each one of them has its own part in this story of the biformity of human nature, the spirit and the body and its relationship. But I know the titles may be confusing because you're like chromosome hand mirrors, like what is that? But it was a way of trying to look at myself, to look at my genetics. So there's a single chromosome that hasn't duplicated yet. There's the duplicated chromosome, and then there's the chromatin, which is the things that make up the chromosome. And they're exaggerated. Any science people, don't come get me. I didn't go just by the diagram. I enlarged the center part, which is called the centromere, and made it a mirror to gaze into. And in two of them, it's darkness, because how deep can you look within yourself for the answers of who you are, what you are, without finding more questions? And that really is just life, right? We need to look at ourselves. We need to search our bodies and our souls and search for these answers. But at the end of the day, we do sift through darkness. And there's a Bible verse about being in the darkness, looking through a mirror darkly, that these are inspired by. So each one of these pieces has references to my body, my soul, my memories, things I think of as bodily forms, and my contentious but also loving relationship to it. Now I'll talk about the process. So indigo is a fruitful collaborator for me because it is that substance that bridges these gaps between science and spirituality. Indigo occurs in plants, in different types of plants, all across the world. So your Celtic blue is woad, which is a totally different type of plant than the indigo that's in these, which is a Japanese indigo. There's also indigo from West Africa, there's indigo from India, there's indigo from South America, and every culture across the world has discovered these plants and worked with them. And so it has this beautiful history. All of the things I'm doing is really standing on the shoulders of people behind me, all of this understanding of who we are and our relationship to this plant. One thing I would like to note, and I think it's really important, is that indigo came to America through the West African slave trade. Enslaved people in North Carolina, the Lagichi people, brought indigo and were forced to farm it on plantations, and that financed the American Revolution. And so it's something I say everywhere I go, because people don't know that indigo financed the American Revolution. Literally, the beginning of our ability to call ourselves American is founded on the ancient knowledge of West Africans and their labor. So just dropping that in because you have to, and it's so important. But every culture has, a spiritual tie to it as well, because when you pull indigo out of the vat, it breathes. It literally bonds in oxygen. And before people knew that it was bonding in oxygen, they said it was breathing. So we like to hate on our ancient knowledge, but our ancient peoples knew quite a lot. They had great knowledge and they understood. So these works floating here is just really important to me and to the process, because the air moving them is still a part of the dye, and indigo is a living color. So that's why I choose the color indigo. And then shibori is the process by which I create pattern on cloth. All of these pieces are stitched. I had a sample back when I was in resident at Chautauqua, but I didn't bring it with me. They're stitched. I pull in the threads. That creates the ripples. I tie them off, and then I dye it, and then I remove the threads. So that's a little background on how it's done. I do occasionally teach workshops, so if you'd like to learn, some of my process, I'm happy to do that. And but yeah, that's everything. Any questions?
So is the dye fugitive?
No, it's one of the most reliable natural dyes.
And you make it yourself. So
right.
Does it supply it last a while?
So I'm not capable of growing enough to dye all of this. Every single piece I have has some of my homegrown indigo in it. But yes, I grow Japanese indigo. I really would love to dye woad, which is where Celtic blue comes from, but it's invasive in the US. So I chose the Japanese indigo plant because it's not invasive. I grow a little patch, and I get about a jar a year out of my indigo plants.
Do you work in outside part of the time or inside? I'm thinking of the dyes being pretty toxic.
Yeah, so there are types of indigo vats that are more toxic than others, and if any of you have bought like a little kit, I would warn against those, honestly. Do them outside, you'll be fine. But for long-term exposure that I do, you can do inside, but I do work in my garage, and I do provide ventilation, especially when I'm mixing the chemicals. Once it's mixed, you should be pretty safe unless you are using the thiox, which is what's in those little kits. I don't use that. Yeah.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how do you work with other people? Do you have assistants?
I don't have assistants. It's just little me. I have 2 cats. They do observe and they like to participate, but they're not helpful. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Great question. So the ones that say Kanto shibori was machine stitched, and they were folded and then machine stitched. Everything else is by hand. Yes. No, actually, wax thread is not good because it can drag through the fabric and put itself on. I use marine grade sailboat thread because it's really strong. Yes.
This is a goofy question, but what's causing the pieces to
move? Just the air in the room. They're light.
We collectively have that much hot air that we're.
Yeah, we're moving, and the fans. Yeah. Yeah, and I have other pieces that are more, I have silk pieces that are really active, but yeah, the movement is always part of the piece. I also have sleep hallucinations. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. So my original intention was always that these shapes would move, because when I wake up, sometimes I see little shapes and they move around. And that's what it's always.
That's a cool feature of the work.
Yeah.
See that.
Yeah. I think I'm getting feedback, yeah.
So thank you so much, and I think this is wonderful, and You know, Buffalo Art Studio is a place of community and it's a place of conversation. So Davana will be here for, the rest of the evening. She's also going to be working with some of our Jumpstart students, so that's going to be really exciting. I also want to thank Gareth Lichty, our installer. And he helped, he not helped, he literally put them all up. And I think it's interesting when you talked about them moving, they arrived in a Rubbermaid bin that was about 18 inches by 14 inches by 12 inches. So it was really interesting that they are very, very lightweight. So thank you so much, Davana.